First things first, of course, the only way you can play Cyberpunk 2077 on the PS5 at the moment is by playing the PS4 version of the game, as we don't actually have a PS5 version until it comes out later in 2021, or so we're promised. So yes, let's get down to it. I'm basically going to talk about how good this game actually looks when played on the PS5. So yeah, right from the beginning, when you start creating your character, you realise there's a lot of attention to detail in this game. And I really love the fact that you can not only make the character exactly how you want it with so many variations, but I was blown away by how well they've actually used your own unique design of a character within the cutscenes. It's incredible, and as I said, it looks fantastic, and there's more of this to come. Personally, I think the PS5 already is one of the best ways to play Cyberpunk 2077. Now, according to Digital Foundry, this game on the PS5 runs at a fairly steady 60 FPS, apart from a few dips here and there in driving scenes. But, you know, it's only a 1080p version of it, but it still looks fantastic. I mean, even without any ray tracing, look how nice the tarmac looks with the puddles and the reflections and the way the sun's hitting it, the shadows. I think they've done a pretty good job there of rendering it, despite the fact there's no ray tracing. Now, if you look at the parts on this motorbike, you know, all the little sort of details and serial numbers, I mean, if you look close enough on a 4K telly, you can make out the details are actually there. And you can see that on the LCD display there's some very realistic kind of reflections, and you can see that the display even switches from neutral to drive and reverse, depending on what you're actually doing. Yes, there's a lot of attention to detail, and I really love it. I mean, all of the serial numbers on the parts really didn't have to be there, and I'm sure that when we get a PS5 version that's fully realised in 4K, all of that will actually be 100% readable, even the tiny writing, I would imagine. So, you know, I take my hat off to them. And I really enjoy being inside the cars too, because again, that same level of detail is apparent. I mean, from the stitching on the seats to the little warning messages on the sun visors, you know, all of the displays actually do something, you know, from RPM to your speed. Even the time matches the time you can see under your mini map there. It's just fantastic. I mean, look at that stitching in the leather there. Amazing. So, as you can see, I wasn't making this up. This isn't being played on a high-end PC. And although some people may say it doesn't look as good as it does on a high-end PC, I would say that, you know, the fact that it runs at 60 FPS, I don't really notice the fact that the ray tracing isn't there. It's, you know, those kind of details don't really jump out at you when you're immersed in the gameplay. But what I do love is, again, all of the little details in the writing. I mean, look at this vehicle that doesn't even have a windscreen. It's got some kind of augmented windscreen. And, you know, I think the design of these vehicles as well is very inspired. There's so much work gone into them. However, of course, the best car you can have is this classic Johnny Silverhand's Porsche 911. I mean, you can even see, you know, that is a perfectly rendered Porsche badge. In 4K, you can actually see the rippling effect on it as well. And the glass in the headlamp lenses there, just, you know, it all looks very, very real. I mean, look at the little details in the bumper and the writing again. I can't get over how good this looks. And again, that is one of my favourite cars. I loved the Porsche 911 when I was a kid, and the concept of one still being around in 2077 and only slightly modified to suit the time is fantastic. I love it. Now, the other cars I showed you were basically ones that, you know, I just dragged people out of and nicked within the game. This one you have to actually discover by doing a side mission, and maybe I'll do another video about that. But look at those seats. I mean, this is an older car. Those seats look like they've got some proper worn leather. They don't look as crisp and, you know, tight as the seats in the first car I showed you. And you've still got the classic dashboard there, but you've got a different display coming up on the mirror, some kind of electrical RPM meter there. Whether or not this car's the best one you can have in the game is irrelevant to me. As far as I'm concerned, this is the coolest one and the one I'll be using from now on, although I do quite like the bike as well. Now, the other thing that makes this game amazing is how well realised the characters are. I mean, the NPCs aren't quite so well realised, but the main characters that you interact with throughout the game, even the side missions. In this one here, Lizzie Wizzy. Look how amazing the chrome effect is on her. It's very, very realistic. There's nothing, cartoonish about that. She could almost really be made of metal. And the sequinish kind of effect on this dress here, the eyes, the complexion, the way she looks at you, honestly, very, very beautiful. And, this kind of shot with photo mode, you can have a lot of fun. I've also made a video about how to use photo mode. Just check it out. But there you can see where I froze frame. You can see the details on Johnny's arm, lots of scratching and weathering. And on the cables in between the joints, again, there's print and engraving on the knuckle of the hand there. But, the best and most beautiful part of the game that I encountered is probably this piece that you've seen in the trailers. Although it's not just for the trailers, it's actually real, and you can run around in this environment. I thought maybe only high-end PCs would be able to run this section of the game and at the same time make it look so good, especially as we're running at 60 FPS here. And another criticism the game gets is there's not enough going on in each of the scenes, but look how many NPCs are here, and there's no slowdown, no judder. The kind of chrome and shiny effect to all of the different materials is still fully realised. I personally think that this is a real test of how good this thing runs on the PS5. So if there was any worry that in a really crowded environment with a lot of stuff going on, lots of animation and very tiny details, everything being fully realised all in the same frame whilst you're running around at 60 FPS, the PS5 doesn't seem to have any trouble dealing with that whatsoever. So yes, there you go. I honestly think that PS5 is one of the best ways to play Cyberpunk 2077, even though it's only the PS4 version, and things can only get better. So if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.